Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back again today with another fantasy football video. Before I start this video, I'd like to ask you guys could go down below, click that subscribe button, because not only is it going to help me, it is also going to help you guys dominate your fantasy football season. So, let's get right into the video. Today's video is a recap of the Monday Night Football games. Obviously, there was Houston at Saints, and then there was the Broncos at the Oakland Raiders. So, let's get into the first game first. The earlier game was Houston at the Saints. This was, in my opinion, the best game out of any of the games of week one. The Houston Saints game, it was pretty fucking crazy. 1 second, you think that the Texans are going to win. Then you think the Saints are going to win. Then you think the Houston Texans are going to win. And then the Saints come out and win. At the end, Deshaun Watson scored 4 total touchdowns in this game. 3 passing, 1 rushing, and he threw 1 interception. A great showing from the young quarterback, Deshaun Watson. But that's without really saying anything because you already knew Deshaun Watson was good. You already knew he would be good in fantasy football. On the other side of the ball, Drew Brees, quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, 370 for 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. Pretty solid game for him as well. Now, the thing to talk about here is the rushing game of both teams, primarily Houston. Carlos Hyde got a majority of the carries with 10 carries for 83 yards, no touchdowns. Duke got 9 carries for 57 yards. So it is like a committee there. Duke is probably I'd still like playing Duke every single week as long as he's in a good matchup. I don't think that really affects it. Carlos Hyde, I mean, he played amazing compared to how I honestly thought he would play. I don't think Carlos Hyde is all that good of a running back, but maybe Houston will change that for him. Carlos Hyde also got 1 reception in the passing game, whereas Duke got 4 for 33. Duke played pretty well. I do like Duke going forward. Whereas Hyde, I kind of have no opinion on it. If he's available, he's not one of those running backs that I'm really targeting heavily. But at the same time, I would be willing to pick him up if he was available. Now, talking about the passing game of Houston, DeAndre Hopkins, 8 for 111 and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins is going to play great every single game. A lot of people are probably pissed off. Nick, you fucking idiot. You told me to draft Devontae Adams instead of DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, I did. Because at the end of the season, I think Adams will be better. But DeAndre Hopkins had an amazing game. I told you he was an amazing wide receiver. He played great. Kenny Stills with the last play, 3 receptions, 37 yards, 1 touchdown for him. Not the last play, but one of the last plays of the game, scored a touchdown. And overall, it was really just the DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson show, and it was quite good to watch from the Houston side of the ball. Now to talk about New Orleans. Obviously, I pointed out how Drew Brees had quite the good game, but now we're going to talk about the rushing game. Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, obviously they're 2 backs. Alvin Kamara got 13 carries for 97 yards and no touchdowns. Latavius went 6 for 43 and a touchdown. Like I told you guys, Latavius is going to be useful in fantasy football. In this game, he scored a touchdown, scored over 10 points, was definitely worth the flex spot. I told you guys he would be worth a flex spot. He is a guy that if I own Alvin Kamara, I really would want to have on my team as that handcuff because, like I said, Latavius will blow up if that happens. Michael Thomas went 10 for 123, no touchdowns. You already knew that Michael Thomas was good. Drew Brees was really throwing the ball his way. Same thing with Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn went 7 for 101, no touchdowns. Ted Ginn's always going to have these kind of games randomly. So you're going to be starting Ted Ginn. Next week, you may pick up Ted Ginn, and he may get 1 reception for 3 yards. And then 2 weeks later, he'll do this again and get 9 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns like Deshaun Jackson. Some crazy shit. And then Alvin Kamara, obviously heavily used in the passing game, 7 for 72. Alvin Kamara put the dagger into my heart and beat me by 2 points last night. I was very mad about that, but I can't really be mad because I kind of saw it coming because of how good Alvin Kamara is. Jared Cook, also somewhat to talk about, did not really get all that much work. 3 targets went his way. He went 2 for 37, but I wouldn't be too worried about Cook. I wouldn't really panic off of Jared Cook there. Traquan Smith, I told you guys to draft him, scored a touchdown. Now, how much did you want to start him? Really, that game only got 2 targets, 2 catches, and 1 touchdown. Really didn't do all that good, but like I said, he is going to be used in the passing game. Latavius Murray, also, the running back, got 2 targets. So, like I said, he was a solid flex option. So, pretty much what I gauged from this game was that Alvin Kamara is a beast. Deshaun Watson is a beast. And Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson are very confusing. And then obviously DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas are also beasts. But you already knew that. So let's get into the next game here. The Broncos at the Oakland Raiders. Now, I'm going to be honest. I completely watched the whole Texans versus Saints game. Well, like 99%. I was doing a lab report also for school during it. But this game was like wishy-washy. It was like 1 in the morning when it ended. I was trying to fall asleep. But what I do know is that I want to talk about one player mainly here. And that is Mr. Josh Jacobs. 23 carries, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he also caught 1 pass for 28 yards, which makes him the first running back since Mr. LaDainian Tomlinson, Hall of Famer, makes him the only guy to go for 100 combined like scrimmage yards, which means passing and catching, or no, not passing, you idiot, catching and rushing yards, or receiving yards and rushing yards, you fucking dimwad. And Josh Jacobs did that, and 2 touchdowns. He's the first one to ever do that since LaDainian Thomas in 2001. So what that tells me is that Josh Jacobs is pretty much LaDainian Thompson. No, that's not what it tells me. What it tells me is that Gruden is smart. He's not like Matt Nagy. He drafts a running back highly, he uses them, and he fucking wheels them out there, and they play great. Josh Jacobs should be great all the rest of the year. Obviously, you're not going to be riding a 25-point game or how many points he scored every single game for Josh Jacobs, but you do obviously saw he had 23 carries, as you can see here where my mouse is, 23 carries, whereas DeAndre Washington, Jalen Richard got 2 and 1, so he's obviously the workhorse back on the squad. Derek Carr, 22 of 26 for 259 yards and 1 tutty. Amazing game from Derek Carr, a guy I honestly didn't really believe in all that much. I thought Antonio Brown was really going to help him, but it turns out he doesn't need Antonio Brown. Derek Carr had an amazing game against the Broncos. That really can't be said about Joe Flacco, who just played kind of decent as well. 268, 1 touchdown. Looked okay, but I mean, did you really want to be starting Joe Flacco? I mean, he went 21 for 31 on the passes, the attempts to catches, all that shit, or attempts to fucking completions is what I should call it. Derek Carr overall had the better game. Derek Carr in the future could definitely be a solid fantasy option. Definitely also has that rushing ability. He did rush the ball twice, only got 2 yards in it, which obviously is really not going to get you that many bonus points, but he does have that rushing upside. Now, to talk about the Oakland wide receiver game, Tyrell Williams, I almost call him Tyreek Hill. Tyrell Williams, 6 for 105 and a touchdown. I told you guys he was good. I told you guys to pick him up. If you picked him up, good on you. You got a great receiver the whole rest of the year in Tyrell Williams. Darren Waller, another guy I spoke highly of. 7 receptions, tight end. 7 receptions, 70 yards, and no touchdown. Amazing start for Darren Waller in a PPR league. That's 14 points right there. Quick math. Amazing work for Darren Waller out on so many of the snaps. He is going to be amazing this year as well. Now in the Denver game, we're going to talk about the rushing for Denver. Royce Freeman, 10 carries, 56 yards, no touchdowns. Philip Lindsay, 11 carries, 43 yards, no touchdowns. So in reality, it was just a perfect split, pretty much a perfect 50-50 split between Royce and Philip Lindsay, like I said it would be. Now, Philip Lindsay also got 6 targets his way in the passing game, came down with 4 balls for 23 yards. So obviously, Royce Freeman will never really do that. He'll never have that much use in the passing game. He got 1 reception for 5 yards. So in reality, it's going to be 50-50 probably the whole year between Rolls-Royce and Philip Lindsay. And who knows, if one of them really does emerge, that's when I'd be comfortable starting either of them every single week. Now in the passing game for Denver, Courtland Sutton had a great game, 7 for 120. Pretty good game by Emmanuel Sanders as well, 5 for 86. Deshaun Hamilton did not show up that game. 2 receptions for 5 yards, nothing too hot. Emmanuel Sanders also caught a touchdown in that game. Noah Fant went 2 for 29, so obviously TJ Hawkinson is going to be way better than him the rest of his NFL career. Obviously, that's not true. You can't base everything off of one game, but Noah Fant doesn't look like that guy that you wanted to draft at the end of the 13th round, or like pretty much undrafted in fantasy that you would want. So thank you guys all for watching this video. I hope you learned anything from this video. If you have any questions, leave it down below. I love answering the questions. I'm always down there. Come talk to me. Follow me on Twitter at NotoriousFNTSY. I talk a lot on there. And click that goddamn subscribe button. I love each and every single one of you. I hope you know that from the bottom of my heart. I love every single person who watches my videos. It means a lot to me. I love you all. Goodbye.